Hi everyone, it's Marissa from the Duxbury Free Library. Today for Crafternoon we're going to do paper weaving. So what you need for this project is paper. So I have several different pieces of cardstock here. You can use whatever paper you have. I just have a lot of 12 by 12 like scrapbooking cardstock, but this project looks really cool with neon paper if you have that. And you can use any size, just make sure that the size is consistent. I saw a very cool tutorial that had the paper cut down to the size of a picture, like a small picture frame, like an 8 by 10. I actually have one, I'll show you. So what they did on this tutorial is they took the glass out of the frame and traced it, and that was onto their paper, and that was the size of their woven paper creation, and then they put it in the frame, and that looks really cool. Having a frame gives it a nice finished edge. Today I'm not going to cut my paper down, but you can do that if you want to. You have an 8 by 10 frame, so you could just use regular computer paper for this, which is usually 8.5 by 11 size, or cardstock. You could use magazine pages as your weaving strips if you want to. You're just going to need to do some more measuring if all of your paper is not the same size. So frame it if you want to. I'm not going to frame mine just because I don't have a 12 by 12 frame. So you need paper or cardstock. All your paper should be a similar weight, because if you have some that's, if your paper that you're going to weave into is too light, like in weight, and your strips are too heavy, it's gonna do this. It's gonna get all wobbly. So this is all cardstock, scrapbook cardstock that I had. And I just picked colors and patterns I thought would look cool together. You can use as many different ones as you want, different colors. So I think I'm gonna use this bright orange as my base, and then you cut the other ones into strips and weave with those. So you need paper, like I said. You need a pencil to mark your lines when you're cutting your strips and when you're cutting your piece that you're going to weave into. You need scissors to cut your strips and cut the slots in your paper you're going to weave into. If you have a paper cutter, you can use that. I'm probably going to use that just to make this project go a little faster, but know that you can always just cut your strips with scissors. So you would measure your lines that you're going to cut on, mark them with a pencil, draw a line, and then cut them with scissors. So for speedy's sake, I'm going to use my paper cutter. And so paper, scissors, pencil, paper cut, or paper cutter instead of scissors, ruler. So this is just a regular ruler, and I know my ruler is 1.5 inches wide. Yours can be less wide than that, and just for measurement's sake, I know that this is 1.5 inches. And glue stick. That's all you need for this. So let me get started and I'll show you how this is going to work. All right. So the first thing I want to do is cut my paper that I'm going to weave into. So I said I was going to use this orange, kind of a nice pumpkin color. So I know that this paper is 12 inches by 12 inches, so it's a 12-inch square. So I am going to give myself a 1.5 inch border around, and then space my lines off of that. So like I said, I know my ruler, which I just moved. I know my ruler is 1.5 inches wide, so I'm just gonna draw with pencil a really light border. And because this paper is the same color on both sides, I can cut my lines and flip it over, and then you won't see the pencil. if you don't know how wide your ruler is, you can always measure it with another ruler, or you can just measure an inch. This is just easy because it's a nice straight edge and I don't need to measure an inch. I'm just gonna go with what I've got. All right. So I think you can see those lines. So this is going to be not woven. I'm not going to cut these lines. I'm just going to weave within here, this big empty square in the center. So now I am going to mark, I'm still going to use this 1.5 inch width because it's very handy to just have it be the right width that I want it. Fix this line, this one's a little crooked. Just clean that up a little bit. Okay, so now I'm going to measure the lines I'm going to cut. But first, I'm gonna fold my paper in half. So, excuse me, because this paper is square, you can fold it either way and it's the same size. But if you were folding an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, you'd want to do, I'll show you. It's hard to explain. I want you to do a hamburger fold as opposed to a hot dog fold, which always sounded funny to me until I realized it makes a lot of sense. So let's say this is an 8.5 by 11 piece paper. You want to fold it this way as opposed to the long skinny way. So hope that makes sense. So hamburger as opposed to hot dog. See the difference? And now I'm going to measure my lines that I'm going to cut and weave into. And I fold it in half so I don't have to measure the whole line. I just need to measure half of it, and then I'm going to cut along the fold. When you are choosing your colors for this, like I said, the neons look really cool if you have neon paper at home. I like using patterned paper because I think it comes out looking pretty interesting, that some of the pattern you see and some of it you don't. You could use paper grocery bags or magazines, newspapers, whatever you got. All right, so this is off by a little bit because I had a 3-inch border, so they're not totally spaced even. See my mistake? Don't do that. But for our purposes, I'm just gonna make this a little bit wider, this one side, and just so you can see what it looks like woven. But you want to have evenly spaced lines in between the space you're weaving. So now I'm going to cut these lines. I'm not going to cut all the way through my paper. I still want to leave this edge. So I'm just going to cut along my lines up to that top line. So see, there's still a bit attached. I'm not doing this with the paper cutter because I think it'll just be tricky, and this is heavier paper. Paper cutter is good for like lighter weight paper that's not doubled, folded in half. just gonna make this one a little bit off the line because I didn't measure mine evenly. So now my paper looks like this. Looks a little bit like a crown. And now I'm gonna unfold it. And I'm gonna put my pencil lines on the back. So now you can see it has this border all the way around that's not cut. That's the pencil side. It has this border all the way around that's not cut, and all these little slots cut into it in the middle. So, like so. So now I have the side that I did not draw on with the pencil up, and you can smooth down that fold. And this is what we're gonna weave into. Now I'm gonna cut my strips, and like I said, I'm gonna cut mine on my paper cutter, but you can cut yours with scissors if you don't have them. So I'm gonna put that out of the way. And true to form of me not being super careful with my measuring because I'm just doing doing an example, I'm not gonna measure this. I am gonna line up my paper with my paper cutter and just start cutting strips. This paper only has pattern on one side. You can cut them wider or you can cut them thinner. I might do a mix of widths, or I'm just gonna cut a couple from each piece of paper I have here. Then I have this paper, which is this pattern on one side and a completely different pattern on the other, which I think is pretty neat. It would be interesting if you got a magazine or a catalog page and chose a bunch of pages that had similar colors on them and did that. That can look pretty unique. One more from this sheet. And then I have this peach color. So I thought this might look good with the other ones, mixed in with that orange. And if I need to cut more, I'll just come back and cut a couple extra. So now we're gonna start weaving. Weaving is over, under, over, under. You can vary it and go over, under, 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 over. But we're just gonna go the regular over, under to show you the motion of weaving. So I'm gonna come back and take my sliced piece of paper, and I am going to start with this pattern. And I am going to go, so I'm gonna start and go under in the first slot. Let me move this towards me a little bit, over the next one. Under. You can see how it's working on the back too. So now that one's woven through, and I want to push it up to the edge of the the paper loom that we've made. And I don't think I'm going to move that, so I am going to just glue down these two ends, my glue stick. So I'm going to lift this up carefully, just put a little glue, stick it down, make sure I don't get it uneven, and do the same on the other side. A little bit of glue. There we go. All right, so there's my first one. Now with a different strip, different color, oops, that was my glue stick. With a different strip, I'm going to do the opposite. So I want to start on the back and come up through this first slot and then down and up, down and up, down and up, down and up. Even it out, push it down, or up in my case. And so now I have 2 woven, and I want to glue these down on the back side. So I'm going to flip it over. You can see this is the side where I have my pencil lines. The wider your strips are, the faster this will go. But if you wanted to get really intricate and weave different widths or very skinny ones, that would look awesome as well. So I'm gonna do this next one just to show you one more time, and then I'll finish and come back and show you how it looks. So I'm gonna go under, over, under, over, under, over, under, and that comes out on the top side like so. And my glue. All right, so I'm gonna finish this up and I'll come back to you in a minute when everything else is woven. So you can see my woven paper creation. At this point, you can do what you like with it. You can hold a different orientation, so your woven strips look like they're going up. You could trim down the edge a little bit, or like I said, if you trim your paper ahead of time and you have an 8x10 frame, you could pop it in a frame. You could, because let's see, what's the next holiday coming up? It's Memorial Day. You could do like a red, white, and blue one as a Memorial Day decoration. You can do whatever you like. So I think it's a really fun way to mix different colors and patterns and different types of paper, like magazines, computer paper, whatever you have. And you could do this as part of a card for someone's birthday, make a small one and glue it on the front of a card. Or make a sign, like write letters on your squares, your woven squares, however you fancy. So hope you have enjoyed this little woven paper tutorial. And if you have any questions about it, you can leave a comment. If you have an idea for a Crafternoon you think we can do with materials that you probably have at home, you can also leave a comment. And we would love to see what you've made. So you can post your photos on our on our Instagram page. You can tag us, we're at Duxbury Free Library. Same thing with Facebook at Duxbury Free Library. So I hope you have fun and have a happy Crafternoon.